All right, we want to greet everyone in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, and we're grateful to the Lord for everyone that's here today, that's here. We are still having house church, I guess you would say. That's the way it's been, really. And but we're grateful to just to meet up and hear the word of the Lord wherever we can meet up at. All right, so today I want to mention a couple of things before we get into the word, just real briefly. Some of you have been asking me about the church and where we are in that process with purchasing that property. And I wanted to just give an update on that. So you remember the dream that I had where it says if you write down 40, I'll give you 15. And so originally I thought that was the Lord taking off the 15 because they were asking $55,000 for the church. And we made an offer of $40,000 and they accepted that offer. But then the Lord brought it to me today, the order that He spoke that in. If you write down 40, I'll give you 15. Not if I give you 15, before you write down. So I had to pay attention to the wording. So you're asking, where are we in that process? Here's where we are. We're waiting on the 15. If that makes any sense. I'm waiting on the Lord to give us 15. Does that make sense to everybody? You see. So by His grace and mercy, He touched the hearts of the people that's selling that building to accept our offer of 40,000. But if you pay attention to what was said there, if it was just about Him taking off the 15 from the 55, then that's all He would have said, was just write down 40. But He said, write down 40 and I'll give you 15. So that's where we are. We're waiting on the Lord to give us that 15. Of course, when I say 15, I mean 15,000. And then we'll take it from there. But we're not going to make any moves until we get that from the Lord. You see, we're not going to make any moves. And just me, as I have explained before, it don't matter to me one way or the other. I believe with all my heart that we'll get that building. I believe that property is for us and it's meant for us to have it. And we're so close to getting it. But I'm not the type to worry about it. This is the Lord's business. See, now, if the Lord commissioned it, I'm not worried about it. It's not my job. In other words, it wasn't my idea. So since it's not my idea, I'm not gonna help. I'm not gonna get out there and I'm not selling nobody's chicken dinners or fish dinners or anything like that. I believe that if it's the Lord's will, then He'll make it happen. So somebody got 15 grand they need to cough up, and we'll just. And so we'll just be waiting on that, because I believe it's the Lord's will for us to pay cash for it, and for us not to have a note. We're not going to do that. So, so that's what we're waiting on. You write down 40, I'll give you 15. Now, did anybody remember what the third thing was that we mentioned? Nobody? What was y'all? Where are y'all? Are y'all listening to me when I'm preaching? So, do y'all remember the other thing? Not just the what was the other thing, Brother Tank, that everybody can remember? The jar. Does anybody know what the significance of that is? Do anybody remember me ever saying that when I was a little boy, my daddy had a pickle jar that he kept money in, and he would give people money when they would come by the house? So that's the significance of that. The Lord was just, He talks to you in ways that you understand, And so that was the thing. That was the significance of that. People used to come by the house when I was little and ask Dad for money, and he would tell me to go get his jar, and it was a big, I guess, a gallon pickle jar, and I would bring it to him, and he'd give them what they wanted out of there. And so that's what the Lord was showing me about that. So just so that you all will know. All right. So another thing we want to just bring out, just real quick, with emails. We're still getting emails from different people, and people just sending emails about different things that's going on in their life, and wanting answers. And I just want to let you all know that those that are sending the emails, rather, that we are getting your emails, we are reading them, but we're trying to catch up on responding to you all, because of course this ministry is in a transition period where we're taking care of some things and moving and things like that, and so we will get to you all. So just be patient with us. And some of you have emailed asking for answers, and I'll email you back whenever the Lord give me an answer to whatever it is that you're asking. So in the meantime, just keep praying, and maybe the Lord will give you the answer directly. But we will get to you, and we thank you for your patience. And we also thank you for everybody for the encouraging words that you all send. It means a lot to us when we can read the encouraging words. But we know that the enemy is at work, and that he says things and he does things to try to slow us down. But it's always encouraging to know that somebody somewhere is being touched. And it's encouraging when we hear from someone, especially if we've never heard from them and they tell us that they've been watching for years or however long. It's always encouraging to know that you're being blessed. So today, if you have your Bibles now, let's go to the 32nd number of Psalms. Does anybody know why we call it number of Psalms instead of chapter? Anybody know? Because all of the Psalms, what we read, were actually songs that were sung. And so just like if you have a choir sing and they'll say, well, sing this number or play this number. That was a way that they referred to music and things like that. So that's why we call it a number of songs, because it just represented songs that were being sung. If you think about it, all of these, what we read in the book of Songs, they were actually sung out. This was a part of their praise and worship. And in fact, if you listen to a lot of praise and worship music today, you see a lot of them taking scripture right out of this book. A lot of them are written from this book here. All right, so this is this 37th number of Psalms. This was written by David, King David. And he starts off in verse 1, says, "Fret not thyself because of evildoers." Now, to understand this number of Psalms, what David is writing here, you first have to understand this. And some of you have listened to the message that we preach called Kingdom Principles. And in that, I think that's the one where we're talking about the two different kingdoms. Now, there are only two kingdoms. There are only two kingdoms in the spiritual realm. Only. That's all. The kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. There are only two kingdoms. Now, the devil, he has a whole lot of little sub-kingdoms, and he can make this one think that it has nothing to do with that one, but it's all the same devil. You see, it's all the same devil. That's his deception. If Buddhism don't get you, then, something else will. Islam will. In other words, they can think, oh, we're serving two different gods. They're serving the same God. It's the same devil under the same kingdom of darkness. And so there are only two kingdoms. So you have to understand that there's a way, and when you're talking about kingdoms, you're talking about an order, a way that things are done. Now, you have to understand that if you're going to understand what we're going to read here. In the kingdom of darkness, it is a law. Their law is for you to get somewhere in life, You have to step on other people. You have to make yourself look prestigious. You have to get an education. You have to do all of these different things. If you want to get anywhere in life, you got to do it yourself. You know, and a lot of us, we're born and we're raised in families while parents instill that on the inside of us. If you want to get anywhere in life, you got to do it yourself. You got to, you know, promote yourself. You got to get out and, you know, get a job and do all these things. And we're not saying that there's anything wrong with getting a job and making things happen. But I'm going to tell you, a man that has been on his deathbed twice, God has a way of letting you know you ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing. You ain't even breathing on your own. And now let me just clear that up for you. How many of you have to think to breathe? If you had to think to breathe, you stopped breathing when you went to sleep. See? That's God's way. Even every breath that we take is God's way of letting us know you're not even breathing on your own. I'm the one that's drawing you in and out. You see that? Who is it that programmed us to do that? You see that? God does. Because if you had to think about it, you would stop breathing in your sleep. So God has a way of letting us know we're not doing anything. And that is the first concept that we need to understand when we come to the Lord, is that we don't do anything on our own. And we find out, especially if we sold out to God, we find out, wait a minute, it ain't been me all these years. You see? It's been God. Even when I didn't know God, He was the one that was looking after me. You see? And so you have to understand that there are two different, when you're talking about two different kingdoms, you're talking about two different ways that things are done. As a person that was in the Navy and that went to several different countries, I saw how those different countries operated. And I saw that this country had a completely different law system than that one. You know, in some countries, like in this country, prison guards have guns. They have guns. They walk around. But in some countries, they don't carry guns. You know, they don't. Prison guards don't carry guns. They just you gonna do what we tell you to do. You see, and we don't need a gun to make you obey and make you mind. In Hong Kong, whenever we landed in a different country, we always found they always briefed us on the different rules that are common here, that you know but that would go against things over there. Like in Hong Kong, it's against the law. At that time, it was against the law to chew gum in the street, and you can get arrested for whatever reason. You see, I don't know why. Now I'm gonna tell you, even in this country, you would be surprised of the laws that are still intact here. In this country, you see that the laws that they have. If you just Google that, just weird laws in this nation, you would be surprised at the laws. You know, up until recently, and there are still laws on the books in some states where it's against the law to commit adultery. Yeah, against the law to commit adultery. And you know, in some states, people sue when their spouse commit adultery. They'll sue the person that was the adultery was being committed with. See, so you'd be surprised. So when you're talking about kingdoms, you're talking about different rules and different laws. And so the kingdom of darkness say, if you want to get ahead in life, then you have to put yourself ahead. You have to present yourself as some big prestigious somebody. You see that? And you have to walk and look the look, walk the walk and talk the talk. Jesus said, the kingdom of light says, which one of you, if you want to be great in the kingdom, then you be everybody's servant. I sat in a church one time where there was a pastor. I sat in a church one time where there was a sat in a church one time where there was a microphone stand in the front of the church, and the pastor had asked somebody to get up and get the microphone stand and move it out of the way. And his wife was sitting right there, and she got up to do it. He said, "No, baby, don't you do that." And I tell you, I got so disgusted because he was worried about. There were several other pastors there and preachers there, and several other churches there. And they had some big event going on, and I got disgusted because he thought it would make him look bad if his wife actually looks like a servant in front of people. And you'd be surprised at how many people that have that mindset. And so in the kingdom of light, we're told if you want to be great, then you be everybody's servant. You be the servant. You see that? Jesus, if you read the 5th chapter of the book of Matthew, with what they call the Beatitudes, in other words, the attitudes that we're supposed to have, you'll see the Lord reversing. What does he say? It has been said of old, see, to hate your enemy. But I tell you, everybody see that? And so in that whole chapter there, he's reversing things to show you this is how you were raised, this is what the kingdom of darkness says, but I'm telling you, this is what light does, you see. So you have to understand those two principles, the kingdom of darkness versus the kingdom of light, and you have to get that there is a difference so that you'll understand what we're about to read now. So in verse 1 of 37th number of Psalms, it says, "Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity." Now, when the Lord was giving me this, I thought it was very, very, very interesting that here King David was talking to believers. He was talking to people who believed in God. And he's having to tell them, don't be envious of Satan's workers. Isn't that something? That God has to tell his people, don't be envious of Satan's workers. In other words, what is he saying? That if you're not careful, you will look across the road and it will look like, and trust me when I tell you, the devil will always have somebody around where it look like they just cutting up and acting the devil and everything's going right for them. Like, then no problems whatsoever. The children are all behaving, all of them on the road, going to college. Everything is all right with them. And if you're not careful, he will make you think, well, what's wrong with you? Your children acting the devil. You're constantly having to deal with them and talk to them. Why is it nobody else have these problems? Well, the answer is very simple. You only find out there's a devil when you come against his kingdom in any way. The devil's not interested in making you know that he exists if you already living for him. It's his job to make your life easy. Everybody understand? When you living for the devil, it's his. He's gonna make it look easy. Now, at some point, that person that's in that condition, they'll get to the point where they realize the devil don't have any life to give. He doesn't have abundant life. The only thing that makes us come to the Lord is we realize something is missing. The devil can't replace what's missing. Now, what the devil will do, he'll lay it all out on the table for you. Okay, so you tried this, try this. Maybe that'll fulfill you. Okay, you tried that, now try this. Maybe that'll do it. And when you get all the way down the line on the other end of that buffet table, you find out this was all for nothing. I done tried all of this and I'm still not satisfied. There are rich people every day that don't have to ever worry about bills and they still miserable. You see that? Because the devil can't give you what he don't have, which is joy. He can't give you joy. He can't give you peace. He can only give you false peace. In other words, if your peace comes from knowing that your bills are going to be paid, the devil will keep you asleep. Because he don't mind helping you pay bills. But it's something, if you will pay attention, it's something that rings on the inside of every individual. We were all made in the image and likeness of God. And no matter how big of a sinner we were, at one time, we know there is something missing. And we go through life trying to find what it is, trying to plug that into our lives and hope that this will satisfy me, except it doesn't. Because God placed it on the inside of us. We were born and made to worship Him, and we're not going to be happy and we're not going to be truly satisfied until we do what our Creator has made us to do. So, it says, fret not thyself because of evildoers. And that word fret means to worry. Now, what do we look like as believers worrying about what evildoers are doing? When you're sitting back and you're thinking about how good you think somebody else has it, you got too much time on your hands. You need to be busy for the Lord. When you can get jealous of what the devil, what he's doing. You see, when you can get jealous of what it looks like he's doing for other people. See. So look at what it says there. Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. So let's just lay it out this way. Look at what it says. Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. What that means is this. What you see going on in the lives of people, you see how it look like they're prospering, how it may look like it's just everything is easy for them, just everything comes natural to them. And if you're not careful, you can want what they have without knowing the price that was paid to get it. You may look at a married couple and be envious, not saved, but envious. Oh, it looked like they don't ever have any problems. But what you don't see is that they have had to compromise in their marriage. Everybody understand? In other words, all they've done is adjusted to one another. Not really happy, not happily married, just adjusted. We're just going along to get along. So while it looked like there are no arguments, while it looked like everything is easy street, what it really is they're both miserable and they've just gotten used to being miserable. Just like what we talked about before. You can stick your thumb in your side and it can hurt, but after a while, you get to doing other things and you don't notice it. And if you're not careful, you'll see somebody with the thumb in their side and you think, oh, it just looks like everything's going good for them, but you don't see they dealing with pain. And listen, at nighttime is when they really recognize it. Now, I want you to think about this, how it is with us, just naturally so. As long as you're up going and going and going, you have what the Bible, what is called adrenaline. You can hurt yourself and not feel it. So when do you feel it? When you rest. When you lay down, that's when you know, oh, my legs are aching. Well, you see. But what happens is, and that's the way of the world, people have found ways to dull pain. Staying busy. Let's go on vacation 6 times a year. Let's do all these things. And they can't stand to be still and be quiet because then reality sets in. I'm really not happy. Everybody understand? And if you're not careful, you can see all the vacations. You can see all these things that they're doing to numb the pain and not realize what they're really doing is trying to numb the pain. They're really trying to get away from their reality. So what do we as believers look like envying the process of the world, the way of the world? You see that? That's not God's will for us to do that. So verse 2, it says, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. Verse 3, trust in the Lord. Everybody see that? Now, the reason why people fret themselves because of evildoers, the reason why they are envious of the workers of iniquity is because they don't trust God. you see the devil doing it one way and it seems like it's quick and everything is just popping for them. But you got to pray through everything. And if you're not careful, you can think, well, this ain't fair. But let me let you in on a little secret. God purposely holds your blessing in his hand because that's for some of us, that's the only way he'll have a relationship with us. I want you to think about that now. Would you really pray to God if you didn't need something? Our prayer life is on 10 when we in need, when we in trouble, or you know. So it says, trust in the Lord and what? Do good. Everybody see that? Now he's talking to believers. Trust in the Lord and do good. Why? Because if you don't trust in him, what are you going to do? You're going to do things that are contrary to God's will for yourself. You see. Trust in the Lord and do good. So shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be what? This is how you're fed. In other words, that's what he's saying. This is how in other words, what he's saying is, this is how your needs are met. Trusting in me and doing good. I'll meet your needs. It really goes back to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness. And then all of these things will be added unto you. You know what most of our problems are? We want to sidestep with God, and we want to just be in and out of the relationship with God, and then wonder why things ain't going right. You see, I was explaining to somebody the other day, it would be the same as the Lord giving you an aspirin, and you knowing that aspirin will heal your headache. You know if you take it, it will take that headache away. But what you do is you cut it in 10 parts, a little bitty aspirin, and then take that 10th and then get mad at God because it didn't work. So let me make this clear. You can't cut God up in pieces. And he's not meant to work when you try to. With God is either you're going to take all of him, or it ain't going to work. You come out, that's what he meant when he said, I would that you were hot or cold. In other words, you need to be either living for me or the devil, but make up your mind. It don't do you any good to take a 10th part of an aspirin and then get mad when it don't work. And you know how many people you come across, they try God and then get mad when everything is still in uproar. Well, you can't get mad, and don't blame anybody's preaching or anybody's ministry because your committing adultery on God didn't work. You see, you can't get mad with God because he see you a mile away and that you're half stepping with him and he ain't coming through for you. Hey, can you fool God? So let me make this clear. God will frustrate you playing with him. He will purposely trip you up. He will purposely stop anything from working well for you. When you see, it'd be better that and then even the devil can't depend on you. You don't belong anywhere. You see? So you need to be all the way in or all the way out, in other words. You see that? So look what it says there. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Look at what it says, verse 4, delight thyself also in the Lord. Everybody see? So you notice the difference there. He said do good, and listen, you can do good. But I think it's very interesting that he had to come right behind that and say, delight yourself in the Lord. In other words, enjoy the Lord. Because there's such thing as doing good and not enjoying it. It not being in your heart. Well, I'm gonna do it because the Bible say do it. I mean, if you want to be married or date somebody and go out on a date and do anything with anybody that's not really wanting to do it. All right, I guess I'll go out, you know. You're not going to enjoy that. You come out better staying home. Ways to bless them. So that taught me something there. That really taught me something. So look at what it says. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee what? The desires of thine heart. Now, let me explain what this means. I've heard, you know, I know that there are preachers that try to preach this carnally, where like this is some type of formula. If you want to get what you want out of God, then delight yourself. That's the way they preach it. In other words, to get whatever you want, all you have to do is spend time with God. But that's not what that's saying. Look at what came first. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Now here's the thing. First thing is delighting yourself in the Lord. When you delight yourself in the Lord, it means that you're becoming one with him. When you delight yourself in the Lord, that means that he has changed your heart. And because he has changed your heart, your desires are no more evil. You don't have those evil desires. Everybody understand? So everybody see how those things are one and the same? Listen, you can get so close to God that whatever you pray for will come to pass. You know why? Because you're so close to him that you're praying his will, even if you don't realize it. No more is it a game of, Lord, is this your will? Your heart is going to know is whether or not his will. You're not going to even have a desire for anything he puts his will on the inside of you because he has given you a new heart. And when you pray, you're automatically praying according to his will. Everybody understand? So we can get so close to God until we pray his will. It's like we're one and the same with God as far as his will goes. You see, we're living according to his word, and we're so close to him until whatever is in his heart, he puts it in ours. And if you're not careful, you'll make the mistake of thinking, man, I'm getting everything I want. Instead of, I'm really getting everything God had for me. See? Look at what it says. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Now, I'm going to tell you, that is the truth. I wouldn't be preaching this Bible if I didn't believe it. If I could find one lie in this Bible, I'd put this down and we'd all go find a hobby or something else to do besides having Bible study. That is the truth. Now, here's what you have to ask yourself on the other side of that. If you've been praying and asking the Lord for something and you haven't gotten it can only mean one or two things. Either it's not time, and that's very rare, or either you're not praying according to God's desire, which equals you're not being as close to God as what you need to be. Everybody understand? Remember what we read in the book of James, what we see in the book of James. We have not because we ask not. And then when we do ask, how are we asking? We're asking amiss. What is that like? Like an estranged child that's done ran away from home and they need food and they come and knocking on your door. You know, they're going to feel some kind of way about doing it, you see. But so that's like asking amiss. You can't even ask in real faith if your relationship with God is not where it's supposed to be. If you know that you are willfully being disobedient to the Lord in any area of your life, you do not have the faith or the confidence to even approach God the way that you should. Why? Because it's going to always be that thought in the back of your mind, I'm not doing this right. Everybody understand? And that ain't God putting it there. That's just your evil. That's your conscience. You see that? You knowing what you're supposed to be doing and not doing it. And so it's impossible for for you to even have the faith that it takes to approach God and to receive anything from Him. Why? Because you're asking to consume it upon your lust. You see. All right, so look at what he says there, verse 5. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. Everybody see? Look at what that says now. It tells you it's 3 parts there. 2 of them belong to you. Look what it says. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Everybody see that? You commit your way unto the Lord. In other words, make up your mind to live for Him with your whole heart. Commit your way. Everybody see? Your way. Commit your way unto the Lord. That means in everything that you do, God ought to be a part of it. Now, look at what that says there. Commit how many ways? 1 way. Commit your way, not ways. You know what that means? That in this area, you're sold out to God, and in another area, I'm not quite there yet. That's not what that's just the opposite. Because you have 1 way. You're either obedient or disobedient. It ain't no halfway, I'm doing this and the Lord's going to help me with the rest. No, commit your way unto Him. I'm going to tell you something. I am a living witness that it is possible to live for God with your whole heart without a bad, evil conscience. Without, I can go to sleep. Now, I can just talk about me. I go to sleep at night not worrying about whether or not I'm going to wake up in the morning. Because I know if I don't, I know where I'm going. I get in my car and drive without worrying about car wrecks. I'm not worried about death at all. You see, my way is committed to the Lord. I'm not thrown off by anything that the devil. Listen, you just turn on the TV, you can tell what people are worried about. Now, when I was growing up, it was Miss Cleo and all of the other psychics. They got rid of that. Now what it is? What is it? Doctors. Medicine. You know why they're pushing that? Fear. And people worried. Why are they worried? The Bible makes it clear in the last days, people are going to drop dead because their heart is going to give out. Not because they have a bad heart, but because their heart is not right, and the devil got a right to worry a heart that's not right. When you are living for God, you don't have any fear. None. Who can put fear in you when God is your daddy? When you are convinced in your heart and your mind that God is, number 1, God is real. Number 2, God is all powerful. And number 3, I live and I belong to Him. What do you have to worry about? You don't have anything to worry about. You see that? So look at what that says there. Commit thy way unto the Lord. So that means having a made up mind that you're going to commit completely to Him. Look at what it says there. Trust also in Him. Now, he put it in that sequence for a reason. A lot of times people start off committed. But if they lack trust, they will back out of their commitment. That's what makes people start off doing good. But because they don't trust God, that's all it takes. And then they'll back out. And then they have to make their own way. So it says, commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in Him. It says to trust Him. Now that's the biggest part of it. It's hard to be committed to someone that you don't trust. How are you going to be all the way in a relationship if you don't trust that they're all the way in? Most of us have been in natural relationships like that. You see them easing out, you start easing out. Even at the beginning, okay, so you didn't call me today, I'm not going to call you tomorrow. And both of y'all are miserable looking at the phone hoping each other will call. You see? So there's something written in us that we have to be fully We have to fully trust something to be completely committed to it. You see. So he tells us, commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in him, and what shall happen? He shall bring it to pass. So, you see that? There's 3 parts there. You commit your way. You trust the Lord. He's the one that brings it to pass. In other words, it requires no action on your part. But most of the time, we start from the end and try to back up. Okay, Lord, I'm waiting on you to bring it to pass. And then I'll trust. And then I can commit. And the Lord said, no. You're going to commit. You're going to jump in it by faith. Because if you got to wait on me to bring it to pass before you start committing, it's not faith. So look what it says there. Commit, trust, and I'll bring it to pass. Everybody see that? If we just look at just everyday life, how many of us got something to do tomorrow? I'm going to show you how easy it is. You got something to do tomorrow. Why? Because you trust, you committed. Brother Tanks have rented a U-Haul. He's committed to that U-Haul. And he's planning on moving tomorrow. Now, why does he have that plan? Because he trusts that the Lord will bring what to pass? Him waking up, him having the strength. We do it every single day. But then when it comes to the Bible, it's like, well, Lord, I don't know how to do that. How we can, you do it every single day. You trust something every single day. You commit. Now, how many of you are actually sitting on the chair that you're sitting on? Did you ease down in it? Oh, you plopped down in it. You tired, your feet hurting. You plopped. You were fully committed. You know why? Because you trusted. What? I sat in this chair before. It didn't give out. You see? I've sat here before. It didn't give out. And you know, and you can use that same testimony spiritually. You know, I've trusted the Lord before, and He didn't let me down. Why is it that God is the only one that's got to prove Himself over and over and over again? The chair ain't got nothing to prove. Nothing whatsoever to prove. That's some good oak. That's all it's got to do is be made of oak. You'll sit on it, jump on it, and everything else. But poor God, He's got to prove Himself every time you get in a bind. Verse 6. And He shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Everybody see that? He brings your righteousness. Commit thy way unto Him, trust in the Lord, He shall bring it to pass. Then He tells us what He's going to bring to pass. Your righteousness. You know why many of us as believers, we struggle in our flesh? It's because we have not committed ourselves to the Lord. We want to be right without God. And we get frustrated because we could see that we're not lining up with the Word, but we don't see that we're not fully committed to God and that we're not trusting in Him. So what He says there, He shall bring thy righteousness as the light and thy judgment as the noonday. Now, judgment means you being treated right. Many of us, if we don't trust God, you know what that makes us? Evil. You know why? Because we feel like we have to pay people back. Everybody understand? We feel like if we don't trust God, then we feel like we have to defend ourselves. And that's what He's saying. I'll bring the righteous judgment to pass. I'm the one that's going to bring the judgment. And let me explain this in very simple terms. Today, Brother Tanks and I, we went to the tire place to get a tire put on the rim. The man took the old tire off. He put the new tire on, but he couldn't blow it up. And after him and I guess his son or whoever tried for a few minutes, they said, well, we can't do this. Just pay us $10. Well, you know, $10 was what I was gonna pay if the tire was blown up and ready to use. A flat. I came in with a flat tire and I'm leaving with one. What am I paying you $10 for? You ought to be paying me for wasting my time. And I'm gonna tell you, you know, the devil try to get you to take it there. Well, you know, it's about to go down up in here. Now I ain't got $10 to just be giving away. I mean, the devil, you know, he try to take your mind that way. You know they're gonna call the cops. Well, I don't care. I'm the one that's right in this situation. Now I'm not gonna pay. What they gonna do? I thought, no, I got Brother Tanks with me. I better act like a good preacher. I'm a good preacher today. But you know, I find myself in that situation all the time. And you know what I do? I do what the Bible tells me to do. I don't repay evil for evil. And I don't run away from being misused in any kind of way. If the man would have asked for $100, I'd have gave it to him. Because the Bible tells me not to resist evil. I didn't think it was right that I paid, you know, I had to pay for something that I didn't get. To me, the right thing for him to do would have been, well, you know what? We couldn't have his tire right for whatever reason. Just, you know, go take it somewhere else and see if they could do it. But no, it was pay me $10 and take it somewhere else. I said, okay, you know what? Now, I'm going to tell you, to me, this was just designed to throw off today. All it would have took was for me to get angry about just giving the man $10 for nothing. And, you know, I'd have really had to pray and fast before preaching tonight or ask somebody else, you got a word? But with things like that, there was a time when that would have bothered me. But with things like that, I learned to look for God. It's hard to see God when you're playing God. Everybody understand? If I would have acted out, if I would have got frustrated because I felt like I had been cheated, I'd have been playing God. I let God bring righteous judgment. And this is the way I just think about it naturally. So, if somebody come up and ask me for $10, I'd gladly give it to them if I have it. So why am I going to get mad at this man for requesting $10, even if he didn't do the job? To me, it's about the same. You see? It's like what the Lord told the Pharisees. You hypocrites. You swallow a camel and strain at a gnat. You see? You could swallow a camel, but that gnat's going to choke you. So, I paid the man $10. So, Brother Tank, let's go on down the road. Where's that Firestone at? He showed me where it was. We went on down there. Walked in Firestone. Told the man what my problem was. He said, just back your vehicle on up to this bay here. I backed it up. He took the tire out. He put air in it with the same equipment that the other man had. And I asked him, how much I owe you? Oh, you don't owe me anything. You see? Now this is Firestone. You know they ain't hardly giving away nothing. So you see, today I saw God. Judgment. That's what I saw. I gave it up over here, but the Lord took care of me over there. See? And not only that, I walked away from both of those situations with peace. No repenting. I ain't have to look up the man and call him up. Look, I'm supposed to be a believer. Will you please forgive me for acting a fool up in your shop? You see how much we... So it says, and he shall bring forth thy righteousness, verse 6, as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. It says, rest in the Lord. Everybody see that? So if it tells us to rest in the Lord, that means that we can be some kind of other way in the Lord. You see? Rest in the Lord and do what? Wait patiently for him. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to get far in this Christian walk without patience. That's usually going to be one of the first lessons you take on is patience. It's impossible for faith to operate without patience. Faith can't mature without patience. You see that? So it says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth how? In his way. Everybody see that? Because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. In other words, if you're prospering any other way besides God's way, it's because of wickedness is behind it. You see? Wickedness is behind it. Look what it says. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. So you see how it goes from fret not thyself because of evildoers to in verse 8, cease from anger. You know why? Because the devil has a whole world to parade in front of your eyes. And if you watch that parade, you're going to get upset. You will even become bitter at God because everybody else got what you want, and they don't even have to serve God and pray to him to get it. You see. And here you are, a Christian, and you struggling, and everything is hard to get, and you got to pray and fast, and everybody else just don't know nothing about no fasting and praying. Nothing. Have no prayer life whatsoever, and everything just seems like it's dropping in their hands. But here's the question. You have to ask yourself, who's the one that's doing the dropping? Where they getting their blessings from? Everybody see? The devil can produce rain. So why are you getting mad? Because they got it, and the devil's raining on them. You see that? Don't you know whatever the devil give you, there's a price to be paid at the end of the road for it? There's a price that comes with that. You see, that's what you don't see. See? Cease from anger and forsake wrath, fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. For evildoers shall be what? But those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. Everybody see that? You know why it's important to wait on God? Because God knows when you're ready. If you don't wait for him, you will grab a hold of something and get a hold of something that you're not ready for, and you will ruin it. God knows when you're ready for what he has for you. Now, a lot of us not wanting to wait comes from high-mindedness because we think we're in a place that we're not, and we think that we're more mature than what we are, and we feel like, well, I can handle that. You can handle it until it gets in your hand. And when you get a hold of it, you'll see just why God was making you wait. You see that? Verse 10, for yet a little while and the wicked shall not be, yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of what? Peace. And that's what's more important than anything that you could ask for. Peace. The wicked plotteth against the just and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. Everybody see that? Now, so the question is, why do we fret ourselves? Because of evildoers, if we believe what the Bible says. Our job as believers, how can we as believers, if our job as Christians is to win other people to the Lord, how can we win them over to the Lord if we're jealous of what they have? If we're jealous of the way that they're operating? If we are in our minds going back to the way it used to be and how easy we had it, how can you win anybody to the Lord when you're not fully convinced yourself? That's what the sad part is. You trying to preach to people that you're jealous of. You're trying to preach to people that you're trying to be like. Instead, so what's their motivation for wanting to be like you if you're miserable? If you haven't fully committed yet, you see. So God wants us to be fully committed to Him. He wants us to rest in Him, and He definitely don't want us worrying or fretting ourselves behind the way that the kingdom of darkness operates. When you belong to God, you're in a completely different kingdom, and you need to find out how that kingdom operates and what it's going to take to continue to function properly. One of the worst things we do as believers is we get saved and our minds don't become renewed, and because we don't have renewed minds, we feel like we can do the same things we did out in the world and get a different result. You see? And that's not God's will. The world says, you know what, if you got a husband that won't listen to you, just jump down his case real good. Just jump on him and just, chew him out or make him pay for not listening. In other words, run your mouth and run him off. The Bible tells us a meek and quiet spirit. He's going to be one without your words, ladies. You see that? Without your words and without your looks. Pretty don't keep a man. Everybody see? None of that keep a man. God is the only one that keeps him. And as long as you belong to Him, you got him. See? So when you completely sold out to the Lord, this Bible says that God says, I own the cattle on 1,000 hills. The earth is mine and the fullness thereof. What satisfies me is this. As long as I belong to God and I remain faithful to Him, I will have whatever God wants me to have. And that's good enough for me. And God wanted it to be good enough for you. All right. Now we'll open it up for questions or comments.
The thing that stood out to me was you were saying, would we really have a prayer life if we didn't need anything? That reminded me, I think Sister Bolivar had said a while back, I can't remember, but what was said was examining your prayer life to see if you examine your prayer life real good, you'll see where you are, Lord, or something like that. Like, if it's just all my need, I need, rather than communing with the Lord. Like, am I really actually having a conversation with the Lord, or is it just I'm giving Him my wish list or something like that? That made me think of like examining my prayer life and like encouraging me to commune with the Lord and delight myself in Him.
Anyone else?
I know I've had a lot of problems with just praying for things that I want, and just without regard to whether the Lord wants it for me or not. So that's gotten me into a lot of issues and problems. And I think just more being aware that we have to pray for what the Lord wants for us. That's something it's helped me a lot, and it's helped me to kind of be more considerate of the Lord's will and stuff like that.
why does God have to prove himself to us when we trust everything else without any thought or regard to whether or not it'll work out when we make God prove himself to us? And I think that was something that the Lord was dealing with me about, and I shared this with some of the sisters earlier. I had been praying about some things and kind of waiting for the Lord to answer me and give me direction. And you know, sometimes when you're waiting for the Lord to answer, you can start to doubt, like, well, maybe it's not what I'm supposed to be praying about. Maybe I'm supposed to be praying a different way. Maybe I didn't ask the right things, or whatever the case is. And the Lord had led me to go to Romans chapter 4, and when I was reading like the latter part of that chapter, he was pointing out to me about Abraham's faith and about how he believed God for the promises before he saw it, and he spoke those things that were not as if they were. And he talked about how the part that really stuck out to me and made me think of Brother Garcia saying how sometimes when he reads scriptures, like certain words just pop off the page. And when I got to the scripture that says that he believed God and he was fully persuaded in the promises of God and he didn't stagger, I was like, he was fully persuaded. Like, nothing could back him off of what God's will was and what God had already promised him, even though he didn't see it yet. He was fully persuaded in what God had already told him was going to happen, even though naturally so, looking from the outside in, you couldn't see how that will come to pass, but he was fully persuaded in what God had promised him and told him what was going to happen. And the Lord was like, you have to be fully persuaded. I've already given you the promises. I've already told you what's going to come to pass. Whether or not you could see it is irrelevant to you not fretting. And so this was kind of an extension of like, you have stop making me prove myself to you over and over again. So.
Anyone else?
I wanted to share something. What I kept hearing in the message was a lot about like what God wants for you, and not like what you want for yourself. And I remember praying a prayer lately, for a while with my husband, and I remember praying by myself one time about it, and I was basically telling the Lord that I'd be okay with wherever He wants me at. And then so basically like a couple of weeks later maybe, He revealed His will for us. And when I heard what His will was, it was like, you know, where on movies you'll hear something and it's like, you hear a record scratch, it's like wait a second. and so like this person said, I believe you wholeheartedly, this is God's will for you, and that was the answer to our prayers. And when I heard that, I was like okay, I'll have to pray about it or something. And but I knew that was because the Lord had spoke that through my mouth before that conversation even took place. And but then like you were saying about being high-minded and stuff like that, I got too high-minded and really thought that this blessing was going to come a certain way, and I already had in my mind how I wanted it. And so yeah, it's really important to desire what God desires, and it just made me recheck my relationship with Him. Am I really desiring what He wants for my life and stuff? So.
Something the Lord pointed out to me was we were talking about when we trust in the Lord, there's no fear when we trust in Him. And when you said that, the Lord brought to my attention something that happened with us in the vehicle this morning, because you were talking, I'm not worried about having accidents and all that, And I think about that whenever I'm driving, when I get on the highway and I see somebody almost hit me, I'm not shaking up. I'm I just thank you, Lord, for your grace or your angels that you camp around about me to protect us, and things like that. But this morning, I was typing up something on the phone, and this happened twice in a row. I think you hit the brakes, and I looked up and I saw, I don't know, whatever I saw, I jumped, I'm like, oh, that scared me. And then I put my hand down, and then I did it again.
And right then I recognized, okay, wait a minute, what am I fearful of? And I saw it in the moment, but I kind of brushed it off. But just now, you know, when you were preaching, the Lord brought that back to me. You know, there is no fear in God. If we trust Him and we know we're okay with Him, there's no reason to fear anything, because like you said, even if there is an accident and it's my time to go, I know where I'm going. You know, so there's no fear in sin. And I was just thinking, like, even in something like that, I have to be careful not to allow the spirit of fear to come in with things like that, you know. And so that was something that the Lord just pointed out to me in the message.
Yeah, and I saw you pressing those imaginary brakes. That's funny. Anyone else have anything they want to share? Anyone else?
I just want to share one more thing. When you were talking about delighting yourself in the Lord, and you went over that story about Taylor, I had just told my husband, what was it, like 2 days ago? Yesterday or something. I had watched a message, and I was telling my husband about delighting yourself in the Lord, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was like a huge revelation for me. And that's what I've been meditating on. So when it was brought up in the message, I knew the Lord was talking to me about it. And it was the same story. I was telling him the same exact thing, and you said it like you explained it exactly the way I explained it to him, and that's why I was over here just laughing. And we both looked at each other and we were smiling. And I was like, oh my gosh, the Lord just He really has a way of talking.
You know, one thing that stood out to me was, you know, basically denying yourself and being humble and not getting in the way of, you know, playing God, you know, and being careful not to put yourself in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And let God be God, and that's it.
All right, anyone else?
When you're talking about like committing yourself to God, that stuck out to me because I think I need to for in my mind. And also when you're talking about delighting and trusting yourself, also stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
When you were talking about praying and there's either one of two things, that's what stood out to me.
Okay. All right, we want to say thank you all for sharing what it was that how the Lord was dealing with you in the message, and just grateful to the Lord that He was speaking and helping us to grow by His word. My prayer is that you will, maybe watch this message again and see what the Lord shares with you. It's so many layers to God's word.